Now, if you guys remember the last time when I talked about Kojima and Death Stranding, I wasn't agreeing with his notion that Italians and French people have a different artistic sensitivity that allows them to appreciate this kind of very original product. And of course, he said that just after saying that Death Stranding didn't get a good rating in the US because most Americans love shooting games. So I decided to put all those things aside and do a little bit more research on this game, sales numbers, and meta scores. And then, lo and behold, I found out something quite interesting. He said this because of two reasons. One, Kojima doesn't like shooting games, and a lot of us already know it. However, that can also say a lot because he also created Metal Gear series. But I digress. One, he doesn't like shooting games. And two, his game Death Stranding didn't hit #1 on sales charts because Call of Duty Modern Warfare was on #1. However, that is not anyone's fault but Kojima's fault. Nobody asked Kojima to make an exclusive deal with PlayStation for the first year of release, because I believe that if Death Stranding had released on all platforms on launch window, it would have topped the charts and become higher than Call of Duty. But he made an exclusive deal with Sony. Now, since he implied that people in Europe and in Japan, or the French and the Italians, appreciated his games more than Americans, I decided to look at the sales numbers for every single game, and it turns out that every Kojima game have sold an average more than 4 times in the US than in Japan, his own country of origin. And in most situations, they have also sold more in the US and in all of America than they did in Europe. And that is a very interesting fact. You can Google this, go to the VG website, and you will see all the scores and the sales on there as well. To make matters even worse, people in Japan don't buy his games. They don't like him either. In a data gathered by an analyst on Reset Era, it shows the number of reviews by region, meta scores by region, and other stats as well. This one right here shows that NA alone contributed to the highest rating for this game, and at the time that this data was published, 15 out of 100 scores for Death Stranding in NA region is more than every other region combined. And once again, in the UK, the game came in second, which is not bad at all because Death Stranding is leading ahead of several other games out there. But once again, it came in #2 because it only launched on the PlayStation, and of course, it launched in the same window as a major shooter, which is Call of Duty. You can ask Titanfall 2 the same question, but that doesn't mean that Titanfall 2 is a bad game. Titanfall 2 is still and will always be one of the best shooters and one of the best games of this generation. The story was phenomenal, and of course, you guessed it, the gunplay and the PvP was incredible as well. So for Kojima to make a statement because IGN USA gave the game something lower than a 9 or a 10 is just egotistical. His game rated higher than most games in the US, and he still got mad because he wants a perfect score. You have the largest number of critics who reside in the US, more than anyone else in the world, and they gave it a higher score. On average, it may not be higher than Europe. However, when you look at the amount of units, that is saying something, and that tells you that the game actually did well. The PC release for Death Stranding is also set to release in the summer of 2020. And you know what, guys? That is going to be a really close one to the release of Cyberpunk 2077. And oh my god, I'm sure he will feel some way about that one as well. And he will probably say the same thing about getting higher ratings because Cyberpunk is a shooter and of course his game is not. But you can't say your game is not a shooter when you have elements of shooting in it, but I digress. And believe it or not, Cyberpunk 2077 will have more for players to do than just building bridges and delivering packages. You have various vehicle options that will cripple and supersede what we have in Death Stranding. And what Death Stranding turned into a whole game, which is a glorified fetch quest, will basically become a very small side mission in Cyberpunk 2077. But as stated before, this game did well in the US. The underlying hurt is just the fact that Call of Duty beat Death Stranding game for #1 on the spot. And that's what happened when you do exclusive deals, and that's also what happens when you release in a crazy window like that. It's no one's fault. And while ratings may be higher in Europe, the number of reviews are higher in the NA region and only just a few points lower than Europe in the Metascore. I guess you can't buy everyone and everyone can't kiss your ass. Anyways, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.